All right, you ready to get into the show?
I guess so. By the show, do you mean the pre-show?
Of course, I mean the pre-show, Daniel.
How could we skip the pre-show?
There can't be a show without a pre-show.
Some of our commenters would beg to disagree.
Couldn't you just get to the show?
I'll never forget the one that was like, "Why are they talking about bike pedals?" Like, yep. Welcome to the Camera Gear Podcast.
Pre-show. This is a warm-up for the show. So we're going to NAB, and in my at this point years-long endeavor to passively remind my father that I have a podcast to see if he'll listen to it, but without actually like sending him a link or something, just being like,
just trying to play it cool.
You know, got a podcast. Pretty cool, huh? Anyways.
He knows that you're bringing out the podcast when you start talking in that voice because you don't use that voice otherwise.
Also, he can't hear me when I talk in that voice. So that's neither here nor there. I asked him, I said, hey, going to NAB. I'm a big podcaster now. I didn't say that part, but I told him I was going to NAB. And I was like, hey, I bet Nikon's going to be there. Pretty high probability. Anything you want me to ask him for you?
And he's like, what's an NAB?
That's exactly what he said. Yes.
Yeah.
What's NAB? Then I was like, that's not what NAB was. Which, as my understanding is, he has a pulse on the industry. I was surprised he didn't know what NAB was.
I'm surprised too.
Either way.
He doesn't need to know about shows like that because when there's news, they come to him. They
It's
call
true.
him or they come to him.
Which is another reason why I don't know why I have to tell Nikon this. And he's probably already told them. But I was like, hey, if I'm talking to Nikon, I'll ask him a question for you.
Yeah, makes sense.
I got a lot of sway.
A lot of sway.
And he said the one thing that he needs more than anything is a native Z-mount lens that goes to 10 millimeter or wider.
What is your dad going to do with that? Does he want to start vlogging?
I think about this time when this is whenever before he got his Z camera, he was on the D750. And we went to the Gaylord Texan Ice Exposition in Grapevine, Texas.
Okay.
And he was taking a picture of some statue. I didn't know anything about cameras at this time. Or some ice sculpture. And he was standing 3 inches from it, taking a picture of it. And he was like, look, I got the whole thing in the frame. And I'm like, what is happening? He's like, it's so wide. That's the only thing I think about.
That's what you picture whenever you think of a 10 millimeter lens.
I mean, like he likes taking, maybe it's like would take a close-up photo with a big background look. Yeah. Maybe he wants to do more landscape. He likes doing landscape stuff.
Sure.
So I don't know what he needs it for, Daniel. I just know that
he needs it.
I just know that 14 mil, not wide enough. He needs 10 or wider.
Honestly, it's a little surprising that they don't make something like that.
I asked him fisheye or rectilinear, and he said either one. Just got to be wide.
Now that's interesting to me that he doesn't have a preference between those two things.
Daniel, 10 millimeter on full frame is so freaking wide. It's so wide.
It is. I don't like. How can you even make a non-fisheye that wide?
It's so wide. And so I was like, there's got to be a Z-mount lens that's that wide. There has to be. And so I went and I looked, and I found some Venus options that they make.
They do make some weird lenses. So
so Venus, which is Laowa, or a sub-brand of Laowa, they make for multiple mounts some ultra-wide zooms that are like 8 to something, 10 to right. 21. I didn't actually write them down for the notes because I didn't.
I wonder if they're those 0D ones that don't have fisheye distortion.
Yeah, they exactly those. So they make some full frame autofocus, which is probably going to get sued by Nikon lenses for Z-mount. So like right now, that's the only option. And then I was like, well, maybe I can make fun of him for shooting Nikon. Well, who out there does make ultra wide full frame zooms? Because it has to be a zoom.
Sure.
There's some primes, but it has to be a zoom. Big zoom guy.
Yeah.
And Canon makes the 7-14 f2.8 to f3.5,
Now that one is a fisheye.
which is a fisheye, and they make the 10-20 f4, which is not a fisheye.
Interesting.
And I think
so Canon's coming out on top on this one.
And I think what he wants is the Nikon version of this RF 10-20 f4 LSTM.
Sounds like exactly what he would want.
It's exactly what he wants.
Now, do they make a Nikon F mount version of this?
No, there are no F mount zooms that go to 10.
Wow. So Nikon's just never been in this ultra wide game.
I guess not. You know who else hasn't been?
Sigma,
Sony, Lumix, Fuji. That's not true. Fuji has an 8 to something, but it's not technically as wide.
It's APS-C.
Yeah, it's not as wide.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that Canon's the only one doing that.
I was also surprised that Canon's the only one that's really covering this wide. But they don't take Canons to space.
They don't take Canons to space.
Nope.
Welcome back to the Camera Gear Podcast. I'm Daniel.
And I'm Lucas.
And we're here today to talk about the gear, software, and techniques we use to shoot photos and video.
I now remember that I actually opened these up. We didn't talk about this whenever it came out, but Brighton made some lenses recently, and we didn't talk about them at all, but they made a 9mm f5.6 for Nikon. The Laowa is an 8-15 f2.8 fisheye, and a 10-18 f4.5 to f5.6 not fisheye.
So kind of similar to the Canon offerings where they have a fisheye and a non, depending on what you're looking for.
Yep. I have yet to send this Laowa to my dad, but I am going to send it to him.
Yeah.
We're like, hey, it's only $600, man. You know, if you need to go to 10,
yeah, could be worth trying.
Could be worth trying. Full frame.
Full frame.
All right. I have a legendary lens for you, Daniel.
It's been a while.
Dum, dum, dum. That's the sound of the clock ticking down to the end of the podcast.
Yep.
This is number 15, I believe, on the list.
Wow. That's more than I thought.
No. This is number 15.
All right.
Which means there are only 84 more legendary lenses.
You better set your clocks
before the show is over.
Yep. Better enjoy the Camera Gear Podcast while it lasts.
Because that means that, like, the actual show, not just like this episode's over, the whole show.
Yep.
Done.
Now, if we extrapolate that over how long we've been doing this show, if we continued at the same pace, you're gonna be here a while.
I mean, it's at least 85 episodes, so 85 weeks minimum.
Yeah, minimum.
But we're gonna get there.
But we've only done 15 in 3.5 years. So
this is what episode? You stopped numbering them, but 179.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
Ruh-roh.
We may be retired before we finish 100 legendary lenses.
No, Daniel, we can't stop until we get to 100. Even if we have to do like 10 an episode. Whenever we're like, oh, we're so done with this podcast. It's like, well, we got. We're going to start making up lenses. Oh, geez, yeah, no, the EF 24-105 version 1.
Yes,
it's now legendary. Anyways, do you know who Dr. Walter Mandler is?
I don't. I have no clue who that is.
He is a famous Leica lens designer.
Famous in certain circles, I would say.
I mean, I would wager to say in all circles he's famous.
Think so?
Mm-hmm. He was on this earth from 1922 to 2005.
Why did you phrase it that way?
Because I started that sentence not knowing where I was going. Okay. And then that's where we ended up.
All right.
Anyway, he was the head of optics for eKeith Canada for like 30 years. And I was like, of course he was Canadian. Because for some reason, like 90% of everything related to cameras is Canadian. I don't know why.
Especially Leica lens designers.
Right? Famous German company.
Almost all of the famous Leica lens designers are Canadian.
Don't understand it.
Yeah.
Is that you're just saying that because this is the only Leica lens designer you know?
Maybe.
So his claims to fame, which he had many famous lenses, but you may recognize the 50mm Noctilux.
I feel like maybe it's been a legendary lens
The
already.
35 millimeter Summilux. The 21 millimeter, which is the first retro focus lens from Leica.
I don't think I know what a retro focus lens is. The only retro lenses I know are those Fuji ones with the brass mounts that they might make.
Dude, I have dreams about those lenses. Bring them. Could I just wrap a brass around my current lenses?
I don't see why not.
That'd be a really good idea. So it's a form of lens that's like it's best described as a reverse telephoto, where the front element is negative, moving to the rear nodal plane. Does that make sense?
No,
No, that doesn't make sense.
Not at all.
Just think about it like a telephoto, but flipped around. How how the image circle looks with
Yeah.
I'm not going to describe it any more than that,
Okay.
Daniel.
What's the effect?
Big wide.
Big wide.
It's how a lot of wide angle or like fish eyes are made.
Okay.
Big wide. Retro.
Knew somebody in high school with that nickname.
There was a guy I know in high school named House.
It's pretty good too.
He was
he on the football team?
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, sounds right.
That guy was big wide too, but in a good way.
Yeah, we all know somebody like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
yeah. So 21 millimeters, right? It's a wide angle. It's no 10, but
it's no 10.
I wonder if that Canon 10 millimeters retrofocus.
That is a good question.
Anyways, he made the 75 millimeter f1.4 Summilux. I think it was made for 27 years.
That's a long time.
It was his favorite lens.
Wow.
Which
It claim to fame.
I have a 75 millimeter 1.2.
Yeah.
Do
you think Walter would look down and smile upon that lens as he does his 75 1.4 design?
I mean, obviously he's going to favor his own design, but
yeah.
I mean, there's not a lot of 75s out there. First of all, and I mean, I'm a pretty big fan of my 75 1.2. It's on APS-C, but
you feel like you're a little bit of a kindred spirit with Walter.
Yeah. That's why I put that on here.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? Me and Walter know what's up.
Yeah.
He basically he made them keep making this lens until he died. And then 2 years after he died, they discontinued it.
Wow. It was like the Walter Mandler Memorial 75.
Yep. There were no changes to the formula. It's just,
wow.
Here it
I mean,
is.
you get one and done, you figure it out.
I loved it.
Why mess with it?
So the big thing with Mr. Mandler, Dr. Mandler, I am so sorry. Dr. Mandler, forgive the disrespect. He, particularly how he balanced contrast and resolution. We've talked about micro contrast when we talked about some Zeiss lenses before, which is you get really close to the pixel to pixel, how much contrast you can get on between adjacent pixels. And that comes down to how well the lens resolves and splits light. And sometimes with certain lenses, if you don't have enough micro contrast, then you don't quite get the same details in texture. We're that's a piece of wood, but you can't really see the splinters and all of the grains and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of the way that he designed lenses was around having a good crisp edges and that 3D roundness. And he really liked to design them so that they have this really clean or smooth roll off into the highlights. A lot of people describe his lens designs as you never get to the point where it actually clips. It just rolls off to infinity.
It's so interesting to think that lens design can cause that kind of behavior, because I think we often think of that as being the sensor or the image processing, but you think about it, it's just like glass. How is it doing that?
I mean, he designed this in film days.
Yeah.
And with film, there's less of a defined grid of pixels, and it's more of just a smattering of grain structure,
right?
And so it is a bit different in how those things would resolve, but I do think that lens design is still very, very much a big part of the way an image will look, and how is light converging or diverging and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So interesting. He also preferred to design lenses that were cooler and greener in tint compared to the modern magenta leaning of modern lenses and designs now. So a lot cooler and really smooth highlights. So if you're thinking of a Mandler lens, these are the things you should think of.
Okay.
Okay. So there's actually a company now called Mandler.
Is it any relation?
It's a Chinese company, and
So probably not.
And they were founded in 2024, and they are issuing exact reprints of Mandler lenses.
Huh. Like they're taking his designs and just directly copying them.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And selling them. Mm-hmm. And so they have a few lenses that you can buy. So it's kind of cool. Aaron Putz, I don't know who that is, said that he was a daring man and he created the Summilux 1.4 35 millimeter when everybody assumed that such a lens was not possible.
Can you imagine that your job is being a camera lens designer and you do something that people call daring? It just doesn't seem like a very high risk career.
Just think about like he's like, I'm going to design a 35 millimeter. Everyone's like, yeah, okay, whatever, cool, yeah, 35s are fine. 1.4, and they're like, shut up, it's impossible, you can't do it, no one's ever gonna make a lens that fast. And he's like, I'm gonna do it. They're like, you're a maniac, you're crazy, it'll never work. And he's like in the factory, like beveling glass, just like sweat pouring down his face. He's like, it's gonna happen, we're gonna do it. He did it.
Very, very dramatic mental picture.
It's exactly how it happened. Very daring. So yeah, this guy, he created the first publicly available APO lens.
That's an interesting claim to fame, and we've talked about APO lenses before.
It's not the first APO lens, which is apochromatic.
But what do you mean? Then what do you mean by publicly available?
Like you could buy it in a consumer camera.
Okay.
Or a consumer lens. Like it's broadly available to the public, not just some specialty thing that was made for science.
Okay.
And this lens that he made was originally built as for like recon for the Navy, like spy missions, like a spy plane lens.
That's cool.
And it's apochromatic and it's supposed to resolve really, really well because it was a spy plane lens produced in the early 1970s. And then whenever it was declassified, they released it for Leica as the APO Telit R 180 millimeter f3.4.
I don't think I've ever heard of 180 millimeter lens before. It's a
very
very specific prime focal length.
It's good for planes.
Good for planes.
So this is obviously a legendary lens, one of the greatest lenses of all time, particularly in that it is just incredibly sharp, or was incredibly sharp for the time, as just extremely good resolving power, really good contrast. I think where this lens stands out in even compared to current modern lenses is no one really makes this lens. As I watched a YouTube video where someone compared this to a 70-200 Lumix S Pro, which I think you have.
Yes. Yep. That's the lens I got that was in the comically large box.
Yeah, they compared the two, and the Lumix S Pro 70-200 is basically better in every regard for image quality.
Well, it's because it's got that Leica juice inside.
Well, yeah, they put the Leica juice in it, which, I mean, there you go. But it just resolves better. It's like modern, the computer aided lens design is so precise that you can beat a lens that was designed whatever.
But it does make you wonder what Walter would have been able to do with modern technology.
Oh my gosh,
it would have been too powerful.
Exactly, unbelievable. Yeah, just send that to the moon. Anyway, it's better, but it's like 20% better kind of thing. What I'm saying as far as they don't make lenses like this anymore is I don't think you can get a full frame 180 millimeter lens, particularly in that one that is as slow as this. So this is f3.4, which is not like super, super fast. It's not like a 2.8. And as a result, it's very small. It's like a very compact telephoto that you can like easily bring with you. It is definitely smaller than the behemoth that is a 70-200 f2.8 Lumix S Pro lens.
I mean, I was wondering if it was kind of like if a close similarity would be something like the Sigma 135 f1.4, which is short, but it's pretty it's physically like pretty large diameter. So maybe not.
This one has a 49 millimeter filter thread.
Wow. Yeah. So that's a really small
lens. Lot versus the Sigma lens you just mentioned is 105 millimeter filter thread.
I think so.
Substantially smaller. Maybe not shorter, but substantially smaller.
Wow.
So this thing is like 35mm. It came in M mount. It had an 8-foot close focusing distance, two extra low dispersion elements, 7 total elements. It was 750 grams.
Wow.
So like not super, super light, but less than 2 pounds. And they made 17,000 of them between 1975 and 1995.
I don't know if that's a lot or not.
It's fine.
Feels like a reasonable amount.
But it was in production for 20 years though, with no change to the
that is pretty cool
to the formula.
Yeah.
So another long running, really, really good Mandler lens.
Mm-hmm. Can you still buy these?
You can buy them you can buy them used.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, you can buy. So Leica will sell classic lenses that are like refurbished, and they'll just sell them to you.
Oh, cool.
So you can buy it from Leica for like 400 euros or something.
Oh wow! So if you wanted this lens, this is definitely one of the more attainable legendary lenses we talked about.
Mm-hmm. F3.4. Da, da, da.
It is cool that it's so small. That's a neat, unique thing about it.
Yeah, it is neat about it. It's also cool of, like, this was as good as any lens you could buy probably until the late 10s. Like 20, once we started getting into maybe better F-mount glass in like 2012 to 20, 18 in the, like the more modern DSLR days. I think that at that point we started to see a lot better, cooler, newer lens designs.
Right.
But up to that point, a lot of these Leica designs, the Summoluxes and that sort of thing, were like some of the best lenses. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
That's it. That's everything
Good
I got
job,
for this
Walter.
one.
I like it.
He's my hero now. That's all I'm saying. Really cool lens.
You might have to buy a 180 next to go with your 75.
Oh, I should. Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's a great
idea. Just have the whole Walter kit.
I couldn't afford the whole Walter kit, Daniel.
It's quite true.
Whew. Okay. I got one more thing for you here.
It looks like you're back.
Well, I'm not back. We've talked about this before because there has been previous Kickstarters for this company.
I remember you so confused because of the name.
The I'm Back company, which makes digital backs for film cameras. Previously, when we talked about this, we were like, this is kind of interesting, but a little dumb because of there's like giant base thing that you had to have. And
basically, what was the concept of the product? Is basically like a digital sensor that you put on a analog camera, but it made it like really bulky or something.
Right. Yeah. And it's like this whole base around it. And it was just a whole thing. So the iteration of technology, we are now to the point where the people at I'm Back believe that they can prototype and make work a version of this that is fully contained within the camera.
Mm-hmm. It looks like the picture is, basically like a roll of film, and then they have, kind of a flat thing sticking out from it that has an APS-C sensor on it. And so I guess you would somehow stick this inside your film camera, and then it kind of like positions an APS-C sensor like in the image circle of the lens.
That is pretty much correct. Yeah. So you like if you were going to load a film camera that has a typical swing open back design, you put the film canister in, you stretch the film over the opening, you roll it onto the receiving part of, I don't know what any of the technical terms are called. You close the back and then you crank the thing. But what this looks like is that stretch of film, if it was made of, aluminum, and they put an APS-C sensor in the middle where the image circle would be, and then they have this flexible like piece that can then wrap around the film winder so that you get like a stable, tight,
right
hold on where this thing goes.
That's cool.
And what they've done is they've put the memory stuff in the smarts, like the battery. They put the battery for this thing in the film canister component.
And the storage, it looks like.
Right, and the storage. And then they have the sensor and the other components that are like where the sensor is. And then they have this little Bluetooth remote control that you mount to where you would normally like wind, like stick it onto your camera.
Okay, cool.
And so like the way this works, you have to take the what do you call it? The thing that pushes on the film, the pressure plate. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
It's like whenever you put film on a camera, the film has to stay. You need a flat.
Right.
The film has to be flat.
Right.
In order for it to expose properly. So You know, every film camera has a pressure plate on it that pushes the film down.
Okay.
And this is designed to fit within the 4 millimeters where the pressure plate would be.
So you have to take the pressure plate out.
Exactly. Your pressure plate and depth where the film would go for your film camera has to be 4 millimeters or more, I guess.
Okay.
But you would take the pressure plate out and then you would put this in and set it.
So there's probably there's going to be a set of compatible cameras for this thing. It's not going to be like every film camera. Really.
Yeah, probably. They seem to indicate that it's pretty broad as far as compatibility. Because I mean, most film cameras, it's like you have a focal plane where the film's going to sit.
Yeah.
And that focal plane is pretty much like defined for the camera, and as long as the sensor is exactly on that focal plane and you have room for it, it should work.
Sure, makes sense.
So you put this thing in there, close it up, and then the way that it works is because like you're like, how is the sensor going to know? Like you can't just have the sensor on. Like, how's it going to know to take a picture? Instead of winding the film forward, you press a button, and the button essentially turns the sensor on.
Yeah.
And has it ready to expose. And then you have 1 to 2 seconds to take the photo. So you press the button to
like prime
it, and then you pull the shutter to take your photo.
Huh.
It's clever.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I mean, it definitely sounds like you have to adjust the way you shoot a little bit.
It would be cool if the film advance lever was the thing that primed it.
That would be cool.
But I imagine that would be very camera specific to engineer.
But also, even with that, I imagine most of the time you don't advance the film before you take a picture. You advance the film after you take a picture.
Usually, yeah.
And so you would just have to, if you're waiting for the decisive moment, you would have to remember to prime it before, sufficiently before that happens.
Yeah, it's just
kind of being a little frustrating.
It's a different rhythm.
Yeah. And you probably don't get any feedback that you've taken a picture, or do you?
I mean, chunk.
Well, but
right, you're gonna slap a mirror.
But you don't
or
know
something.
for sure that the sensor captured it, like that the sensor was on.
No, not really. It does have.
How you know that the battery's still good.
It does have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, so you can pull the photos off of it.
I wonder how you charge this thing. Like you have to take it out of the camera.
Yeah, you probably take it out of the camera. Yeah. Plug in the little film roll component. This seems like a way better implementation.
Yeah.
Did I get that? Yeah. Of what they've been trying to get to.
I think so too.
Like up to this point, it just kind of seemed too compromised. For something like this, I could legitimately see myself wanting to try.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a little clunky in some ways, but yeah, I mean, this seems plausible that somebody like you, maybe you say like, oh, I've got this Canon Auto Boy and I sure would like to use that camera more. It'd be cool to have something like this where you could take digital photos with it.
There's no way this would work in an Auto Boy.
You don't think so?
It auto winds.
Oh, good point.
It just like rip this thing apart.
So it won't work with something like that.
Yeah, I think it would have to be a manually wound option.
Yeah.
But also like for some cameras, the film advance doesn't cock the shutter in some cameras.
Yeah, I think it does.
I don't know if that's true.
So this thing does use, because I don't really know how a film winder works on a real camera, but doesn't film have like little, aren't there like little cutouts on the side? Like isn't that what the film winder like grabs onto?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about a piece of film that has perfs on it.
Yeah, and the film winder grabs
the film
perfs,
winder
right?
sits on the perfs and then turns.
Yeah, because like if you look at this thing, if you look at the pictures in the article, like if you go to the CineD article, they show loading the cartridge in, and that piece that goes around the film winder, to me, doesn't have perfs on it.
But so what most film winders look like is it's like a barrel and then it has a slot in the side, not like perpendicular, but kind of angled.
Okay.
And you slide the edge of the film into the slot, and then you wind it and make sure that the perfs line up whenever you wind it. And so
the winder is not grabbing the perfs; it's doing something else.
It is, but it's like an alignment mechanism, sort of. Some don't do this. Some of them you just like lay the film over and you just start winding. But like my AE1, you slide the edge of the film, half a centimeter into the barrel of the winding mechanism, and then you crank the
So
the
for something
winder.
like that, it is probably it would try to pull this.
Yeah, and then make sure that it like catches and lines up with the
Yeah.
perfs. So what this looks like is these like 3 metal pieces on the end of it that are on like a ribbon seem like they're intended to wind around the film
I
winder
see.
in order to secure it in place.
I see. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like there's going to be some film cameras that this doesn't work with, but I'm sure they thought about that. You know, they probably have a list of compatible cameras, but you know, they wouldn't be doing this if it was like, oh, this only works with one camera.
Featured in this article is a submersible film camera, and for some reason it never occurred to me that submersible film cameras were a thing, even though I have shot with waterproof disposable cameras in the past, and now I 100% need a submersible film camera.
I could see you with that.
It would be so freaking cool. Simple film. Do you think they made by OM Systems or Olympus?
Maybe back in the day, not anymore.
A Nikon Nikonos V waterproof camera.
Whoa.
$30 pre-owned. Oh man.
You might be buying that later.
Woo, boy. I need this so bad.
So tell me more about this thing though.
Sorry, I got distracted. All right.
What kind of sensor is it? How does it work?
Yeah, it's got a 26 megapixel APS-C sensor. It's a Sony IMX 751, obviously.
So that's interesting too, right? It's APS-C instead of full frame, even though film is, you know, obviously full frame.
Size. I mean, I think that maybe ideally they get to full frame at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I think this comes down to availability of parts.
Ah, okay.
They're really playing up this sensor in the Kickstarter. I kind of dug into it before I actually read all the stuff on the Kickstarter page. Or else I would have found all the information that I needed. Anyway, it's a telescope star photography sensor.
Oh, interesting.
Which prompted me to find the part of the internet that's for telescope cameras.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a world of cameras that I have not witnessed.
What sets it apart? What makes it unique?
Like, you know how we've mentioned this in the past, where it's like any niche thing has a sub community on the internet.
Absolutely.
And you can, it's like, it just goes so deep.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I found a forum post of someone who was like, all of these cameras, he had like 8 cameras listed, have the Sony IMX 571. Is there like a real difference between any of these? Or are these going to basically be like the same image quality? And then proceed forum posts and comments and everything about like all of these IMX 571 cameras and blah, 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 blah. And I've never heard of any of these cameras.
Like
and
a whole new world.
It's a whole world.
And you're here for it.
Yes.
You're excited about learning new worlds. So
I'm just going to leave it over there.
Why do you think they chose that for this?
Availability.
Yeah, it's just
almost
something to get cheap.
The fact that there's like 8 telescope cameras that have this sensor in it makes it seem to me that you can get one.
Yeah.
And that's probably, it's a supplier thing, but they're selling it up as saying, hey man, people who shoot space need low noise.
So you're saying they should have taken these on the Artemis 2 mission?
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't. I know why, because the D5 exists. Come on. So they're like, hey, it's this is backside illuminated. It's got, 3.76 micron pixels. It's full color.
It's a 26 megapixels.
It's 26 megapixels.
So same as the XH2S.
Yeah, pretty much. Anyways, the selling point, I guess, of this is that if it's good for space and low noise, it's probably good for other things too.
I guess.
I'm on board. It seems fine. Like I mean, it seems like a great option, really. It's not like they're grabbing a little 1-inch security camera sensor. This is a sensor that is used for imaging, not just like industrial application.
Yeah. I mean, it seems trustworthy as a sensor option.
Yeah. Optimized for low light capture.
And does it only do photo or does it also do video?
It does do video, and it also can do up to 16-bit, not video. Cool. So you should be able to get, it's a 16-bit output. I don't think you're going to get 16-bit RAWs out of this thing.
But you might be able to get 14-bit.
But ideally, you're going to get 14-bit RAWs. You're going to be able to shoot 4K video. And maybe get a JPEG. And hopefully the RAWs are DNG. Because I don't know if you heard, it's now an ISO standard.
I did see something about that.
Yeah, true story. There's a few different support mechanisms in in the Kickstarter, but they're talking about taking this up to 256 gigs of internal space, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
The cheaper, like less space early bird investment on this is like $500. I think that it goes up to like 600 or 800 maybe. Don't know what,
like at full release.
Right. And like whenever this thing goes onto market, not sure how much it'll be, but everything's always more expensive.
Yeah.
So right now it's in that $500 to $700 or $800 range. And they're saying that if they get $400,000 in backers, they'll do film simulations.
Oh, that'd be cool. I mean, it seems appropriate for this.
And they're at 432. So
there we go.
They're definitely going to do film simulations.
What do you what do you think of that price? Like, what would this need to cost for you to be interested in it?
I mean, if it's like $500 or $600, I would be interested in it.
Mm-hmm.
I have enough.
Do you have a camera in mind that you'd use it with?
I would use it with my Minolta 370. Is that what it is? I consider using it in my AF2. I would use it in the AE1. Yeah, any of those three.
Nice. And
it would be
cool.
cool.
You think paying $600 for something like this for an old film camera would be worth it just to be able to use the old lenses?
If it took good enough pictures, I could see a situation where maybe I bring this with me and I can shoot film and then shoot digital.
I see.
That's kind of the advantage of
you're thinking you mean like you take one camera and in the field you would install this thing?
Sure.
Okay.
I mean, maybe that's a bad idea.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand.
I don't know how you transport the sensor piece.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It seems like a little fiddly to swap out just because of that aspect.
But as long as I could go between the two, like take off the pressure plate, put this thing in, take it out, put in some film. It reminds me of those Hasselblad. What is it, like the C970
where
camera?
You can use an analog back. Or
where it's
back.
like a traditional medium format style camera, and then you can do a digital back or a film back.
Yeah.
It reminds me of that.
I mean, it seems conceptually very similar to what they're doing here.
Yeah, for sure. It's but in an SLR style. Yeah, 907 is the one I was looking for. So I was trying to pull up the film simulations. Daniel,
I think this is a cool product.
It seems really interesting. We'll see if it actually comes to market.
It's such a clever idea, like a unique thing to do. It sounds like something that wouldn't be possible. You're like, what if we just put a sensor in instead of the film? And it seems like you'd have a lot of problems getting it to work. But I mean, if if their Kickstarter is to be believed, it sure sounds like it. Sounds like they figured it out.
They're saying that they would do Kodacolor, Fujifilm, Ilford HP5, Kodak Porta, Tri-X 400, Vista 200, CineStill 800T, and Ektachrome for their film simulations.
Some pretty good options there.
Those would all be great. I mean, they're modern films that you can buy now, and people are familiar with what they look like.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It could be
very cool.
Could be interesting. I'm so dubious that this is going to be successful. It's
you
really
feel like there's like 5 people in the world that want it.
No, it just seems like it would be really hard to do right. And I hope it comes to market and it works great. But I was just a little worried that it's one of those Kickstarters that takes. I mean, it's not like an Abode Kickstarter, but it has that feeling for me.
Yeah, I think what I worry about most is the camera compatibility. Like, can they really make this thing work in your average film camera?
Well, fortunately, almost all the marketing material shows a Canon AE1.
Oh,
so
of course it does. Yeah,
which is one of the most ubiquitous. Anyways, it's just super cool. This is really, really neat. And if it gives the opportunity to bring back some cameras that you have that you don't use or can't use, or honestly, even like if you have a film camera that's got like a little bit of light leak, or maybe it's not like there's something wrong with it where it won't like advance film, and like maybe those mechanisms are broken, but you can still you can still like drop a shutter. Maybe this gives you an opportunity to bring it back.
Yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. I like it.
Yeah, me too.
They're back.
They're back.
If you'd like to support the Camera Gear podcast, you can subscribe to us on Patreon. It's only $3 a month, and you'll get early access to episodes, longer pre-shows, and occasional bonus content like written reviews of gear or maybe some photos we've taken on one of our recent adventures. This really does help us pay the bills and keeps this show running, and we'd love to have your support. You can find out more at patreon.com/cameragearpodcast, or there's also a link in the description for this episode. Thanks for listening, and now back to the show.
We kind of teased that we might do book club's probably the wrong word, but we might do like a special podcast on the Expanse series, because Daniel forced me
Absolutely.
by threatening my life to read the Expanse series, which
That's
was
exactly
9
how it
books, and it took over a year. And I did it.
It would not take a normal person over a year.
That's almost certainly true. That's 100% true. Anyways, we did it, and it was like a freaking hour and 20 minutes of us
Way
talking about
longer
the
than we thought it would be.
Expanse. And I don't know if that's interesting to anybody.
No.
But we're going to release that on the Patreon feed for those who, I guess, just like to hear from us and maybe don't really care if it's about cameras or not. And just kind of play that out and see if it's interesting and something that we want to keep doing or not. But for those who are Patreon subscribers or to be Patreon subscribers and you want to hear about the Expanse for over an hour, that is going to be on the feed at some point in the future.
It'll come out sometime soon.
Yeah, sometime soon.
Cool. Good reminder.
Good reminder.
All right, Lucas, can we talk about drones now?
Please, Daniel. I've been begging you to talk about drones.
I feel like every time we talk about drones on this podcast, our basic sentiment is drones are boring and we don't care about them.
Someone needs to innovate, Daniel.
Yeah, but I think they finally did. I feel like we talked about this first sometime last year when Insta360 announced that anti-gravity A1 360 drone.
I think it was wild.
And so that's out now. It's been out for a while. And then just very recently, DJI announced their Avata 360 drone. So now there's like competition in that space. I feel like it's finally, there's finally something new in drone world.
You sent me the Avata 360, and I have yet to be able to get myself to the point where I've learned anything about this.
Yep.
And the only thing I know is that it can shoot 360 video while flying, and it can shoot just forward, 180 degrees.
Well, that's kind of the interesting thing they did. So DJI had the Avata and the Avata 2 before, which is kind of their take on an like FPV Cinewhoop style drone, where it has like prop guards. You can fly it. You can wear goggles and fly it, kind of more acrobatically than you can something like a Mavic. And you can fly close to people, inside buildings, that sort of thing. So they've had those for a while, and now they've come out with a 360 camera version of that. And that gives you, kind of all the cool things you can do with a 360 drone, which we'll talk some about.
Yeah, and we compared the Avata to some other FPV options out there, like Whoops and that sort of thing. And if you're like really into it, you can build cheaper, but if you're looking for a very easy entry point into FPV, it seems like the Avata is pretty price competitive.
Yeah, it honestly is really price competitive. Ease of use is just no comparison. It's so much easier to use than anything you would, get from like the FPV hobby world. And I think probably the only open question is, how breakable is it? How hard is it to repair? Which I think the answer is probably that it's not quite as easy to repair as like a home built drone. But with this type of thing, you're really not generally being too risky with it. You're trying to get footage, so you're usually not, flying around at 100 miles an hour, running into things. And so honestly, I think it's a pretty good option for people wanting to do FPV.
For sure. And I mean, the thing with FPV, if you're flying like a Mavic or something, you're going to get a certain kind of shot. FPV allows you to get much different footage because the way that you fly is so directional compared to the way something like a Phantom or a Mavic or Inspire or something is going to fly.
It's also just a lot more dynamic because you see people flying, between trees, underneath things, through doorways, stuff that you're never going to see somebody do with a Mavic.
Right. But the challenge with FPV and getting footage is you are like in a car, first person, like on the drone, just zipping through things. You can like whip around and get interesting footage, but you can't really get the same type of shot that you might with something that's on a gimbal.
Yeah. If you wanted to I think an easy example for people to understand is like if you wanted to orbit around somebody, that's kind of hard to do with FPV.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the concept of using 360 video on an FPV unlocks that category of drone for video capture in a very interesting way.
Yeah. Yeah, because the drone's basically recording 360 around it all the time. And so if you wanted to like chase a car or something, you can kind of just fly, sort of in the general area of where you want to be. And then afterward, you can load it in the software and you can basically point your virtual camera, your 16:9, viewing window in any direction at any, and you can change it throughout the video. And so like if you wanted to do like the orbiting shot I mentioned, you can kind of just like fly the drone, in a circle
Just
around the
around
person, and then use the 360 thing to like lock on the person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's really, really interesting. And it's something that I think would be really fun to play around with. And
you can also get shots that are physically impossible with an FPV drone.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you can do things like fly overhead from somebody and get have the camera like, rotate, completely around 180 degrees. And, you can get shots that you just like physically can't get, or you can't get unless you're like an expert flyer, which is really neat.
I am curious where the seam is on this camera. Is it along the horizon or is it from front to back?
I think so. The cameras point up and down, so I think it's basically along the horizon.
But for the most part, you're not ever flying FPV drone level.
Yeah,
it almost always has a forward tilt. So
yeah, and so that is a problem with 360 footage, is that you have two cameras
and you have to stitch it together.
And you have to stitch it together, and with both of these, with the anti-gravity A1 and the Avata 360, these companies are really good at stitching it, but you can tell, like you can see that it gets a little blurry on the stitch lines. That is kind of one downside to it.
So what's special about that? I mean, it's an Avata with a 360. I mean, is it everything's the same? Is it way more expensive? What's new about this?
It doesn't seem that much more expensive than the regular Avata. I think the battery life is maybe a little bit less. I mean, honestly, it doesn't seem like there's too many downsides. I think the main thing that you see with this, as well as if you compare it against a Mavic or something, is that you get the 360, but it makes the standard footage worse. And this, so you can't talk about this drone without comparing it to the anti-gravity one. So we'll compare with that a lot, but. Any 360 camera, you can take a 16:9 grab, from your 360 degree view, and and use it like a regular camera. But you lose quality doing that. Like this one is 8K 60 for the entire 360 degrees. So if you take a 16:9 grab from that, like you're not, you're getting some lower resolution.
Like 2K maybe.
2.7K, I think, is generally what you can get. But what DJI did that's really interesting is you can put this in like a standard camera mode where it actually like rotates the camera module so that one of those two cameras used for the 360 is pointing forward, and you use basically that entire camera to get your frame. And so it actually can record a 4K 60 frame per second 16:9. So that's better.
That's not too bad.
Yeah.
That's a nice compromise.
But even with that, the image quality from this is not going to be as good as something like a Mavic.
No, it's not. I mean, just the lens distortion and all that sort of stuff. It's 360 is more of it's like GoPro footage. It's an opportunity shot. It's a type of shot that you couldn't get otherwise, but that means you're not going to get the standard shot in the same way.
You kind of have to realize like you're not getting it for free. You think like, oh, now I can just record in every direction and it's just as good as the other ones, but I can record in every direction. No, you're giving up a little bit of image quality to do this.
It seems that this drone, while compatible with the goggles, is also compatible with the screen controller.
Yeah, so DJI has recently started doing, past several years at this point, you can get the the regular Mavic controller that everybody's familiar with, where you clamp your phone into it. But they've also had these newer ones that basically have an Android phone built into the controller. So there's like a screen on the controller, and it runs the DJI app, and you have this one built-in thing that does all of it, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So with this, you can fly it with the goggles and with DJI's little motion controller thing, but you can also fly it with that the RC2 controller, so you can just have a little screen.
Is the motion controller like the anti-gravity's controller? Because wasn't the anti-gravity thing supposed to be very innovative in how it controlled, and that you're kind of like pointing where you're going?
The motion controller on DJI is kind of a similar concept, but I think the anti-gravity one may be a little bit more full-featured in terms of, I think it has like more buttons and stuff on it. I don't honestly know too much about the difference between the controllers, but they each have kind of a similar concept for that. And there's maybe just like a different, slightly different controls on that thing.
Something maybe to look into more, because my impression was that the anti-gravity one was some dramatic deviation from standard drone control.
Well, it's definitely different than standard drone controls where you have like the two sticks and it looks like a PlayStation controller or whatever. But DJI just has something similar where it's also like a one-handed joystick that you kind of like tilt and stuff. So,
but either way, you seem to have more options for how to control this thing coming from DJI.
Yeah, I think so. And having done a lot of FPV, because with the anti-gravity you can only use goggles. And with DJI, you can use goggles or you can use the controller of the screen. And coming from FPV, I mean, it's definitely a pros and cons thing. I think using the goggles is way more immersive. And if you're trying to really focus on what you're doing, I mean, it just blocks out all the distractions. You don't have glare, from the sun. You don't see things out of the corner of your eye. Like, you're just totally focused on what you're doing. And it's also just more immersive, like especially with these 360 drones, you can look around with the goggles and see, it's like being in an airplane and looking out the window. Like, you can turn your head and see a different area.
That's what I was going to ask. Is it like that, where you're flying and like you're controlling the direction this way, but then you can kind of look around and
it does work that way.
That seems
super cool.
Really clutch.
Yeah, and and both of these drones have obstacle sensing, so theoretically you're not going to like run into something. So
if you're not watching the road,
that is really neat. But I like that the DJI does support the handheld controller too, because the downside to wearing goggles is that you totally lose your situational awareness.
Yeah.
And if you're by yourself in a public place, it's not really a very comforting feeling, putting these goggles on. It's like, I don't know who's coming up to me.
That's why you never fly FPV alone.
Yeah. And so it's nice with this that if you want, you can use the screen, and you lose a little bit of that immersion, but you're also like more present, where you actually are, which is maybe good.
It's like the what are those called, the Iridians? Someone has to watch you sleep.
Yeah, exactly like that. Couple other things. You can take still photos.
Okay.
The DJI has it takes 120 megapixel 360 photos, so it's kind of unique. ISO range is like pretty reasonable. Nothing crazy there.
100 to 6400
for photo. For video, if it's 360 video, it's 100 to 25,600. So,
okay.
Yeah. You can shoot in D-Log M on the DJI.
Boo.
One nice thing is that...
But can you shoot in D-Log not M?
No. They don't do that anymore.
I don't even know what D-Log M is.
Yeah, it's just...
What color space is it in?
Nobody knows.
Can anybody tell me?
Well, what you can do, though, is if if you're using 360 footage, chances are you're processing it after you shoot, which is kind of a downside of these cameras. If you shoot an event with this, you can't just deliver the clip. You have to put it into this software that lets you pick where you want, which part of that 360 degree video you want to use. And one nice thing is that in that DJI software, you can basically transform the D-Log M into like a grade, a normal grade, like it's like a Rec 709 type thing. And I do appreciate that, because you can get the better performance of like a log type codec, but then get it back into like
on a log adjacent.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So,
okay, so this thing is fly more with the RC2 controller 980 with the goggles plus the motion controller also 980.
Yep.
That seems cool. And then drone only without the fly more, which gives you all the extra batteries, $780.
Yeah. So pretty reasonable prices. This is something where I think DJI has done a lot better than anti-gravity. So the anti-gravity A1, like pretty much what everybody said in the reviews is that it's a really cool drone. You can do neat stuff with it, but it's just like wildly expensive. And that is pretty much the case. It's actually on sale right now. So
you can buy an anti-gravity A1?
you can get it at B&H right now.
Shoot, man.
So right now they're on sale. To get the drone with the goggles and the controller, like just one battery, right now is $1,280. And that's on sale. Normally it's $1,600. So it's like a pretty serious sale. If you want 3 batteries, so basically like a fly more type situation, right now it's $1,520, but the normal price for that would be $1,820. And then they have an option where instead of regular batteries, you get high capacity batteries. And that one on sale, $1,600, normally $2,000. So if you want like the top end thing, you're paying $2,000 for the anti-gravity.
You can get the ultimate bundle for $2,250.
Yeah. And compare against the Avata 360, the highest end config of that is literally half the price, $980.
Yeah, but the goggles for the 360 don't show what you're looking at in one of the eyes, when the screen on the outside of the goggle.
Yeah, I will say the anti-gravity goggles seem better. For one thing, they're OLED. They have two OLED screens, one for each eye. And people seem to think they're actually really good goggles, which is impressive since it's the first, set of goggles they've released. And then, they have this weird feature where you have one of the eyes on the outside has a screen so that people could watch it. I remember us making fun of this when it was announced, because how close would you have to be in somebody's personal space to be able to see what's on that screen?
It's
like you're nose to nose.
Well, that's why it's like that. So you mentioned situational awareness when you're wearing goggles. If you feel someone breathing on you,
yes,
they're watching your stream.
It makes for a very intimate moment.
Yeah, if you feel someone breathing on you while you're doing FPV with anti-gravity, you do a whoop. So to impress them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it lets you know that you need to show off.
Yep, exactly.
One cool thing that those goggles have related to the situational awareness is you can press a button on it and it will show you a view from a camera that's mounted on the front of the goggles.
That's nice.
So you can see what's in front of you. So it's better than the DJI goggles, but I think the price is just really hard to get over. Yeah, twice as expensive is a lot.
But maybe it's twice as better.
Nah, it's not though.
You don't know.
Well, just spec wise, it's not.
You're like, I know.
The A1, the anti-gravity one is at 8K30. So the DJI is 8K60. So 8K30.
That's double the frames.
They can't do that rotate one camera to the front thing. So if you're wanting to get a standard frame, it's only 2.7K.
That's the worst. 55
megapixel photos, so about half the resolution on still photos. Sensor size, though, I think is the biggest thing. So the Insta3, the anti-gravity one is a 1/2.8 inch CMOS sensor with an f2.2 lens, whereas the DJI is a 1/1.1 inch, so almost a 1 inch sensor.
Wow.
At f1.9. So I expect the DJI to be quite a bit better in lower light.
That makes a lot of sense. I do not like anti-gravity's website.
The weight
so much scroll jacking.
The weight and battery life are the other big difference. So with drones, 250 grams is kind of a magic number. You don't have to register anything below that. The anti-gravity one does come in under that. So the anti-gravity drone comes in at 249 grams with their standard battery, which gives you about 20 minutes of flight time. And then you can get a high capacity battery that adds some weight. So that the high capacity puts it over the 250 grams,
sure, but
it gives you 39 minutes of flight time. Pretty long time. The Avata is a chonker, and you only get, they only have one battery. You get 20 minutes of flight time, so it's comparable to the smaller anti-gravity one.
Do you really want to be in the goggles for more than 20 minutes?
That's the thing. Do I have the weight of the DJI in here? I think I do. It's heavy.
It's like 455.
Yeah. So it's way over the limit. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. So I feel like, you know, most of the time if you're flying FPV, you don't really want to do it for that long at a time. Like you kind of need a break, but you also have to think about what are you doing with the drone. And I know when I use a Mavic, like when we're filming an event or something, I do like that I can basically take off 15 minutes before whatever I need to capture is happening, and I can be like set and ready to go.
Yep.
And I'm fully confident.
Just leave it up there.
I'm fully confident that I can just come back to the drone in 25 minutes and still have enough battery to get whatever I need to get.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas with this, like you might need to plan a little better, you know, in terms of, all right, when is the thing starting? Like when do I, you know, 'cause I'm going to take off like right before so that I get enough time.
Yeah.
So I think you do have to plan a little more.
You can zip around a little faster with an FPV though. I mean, and the Avata goes to 40 miles an hour.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is, as I understand it, 4 miles an hour faster.
A little,
than the anti-gravity.
It's a little faster, but not much.
It seems like the anti-gravity isn't quite gravity agnostic as we thought.
You had to go there, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
The Avata has prop guards. Those don't come standard on the anti-gravity, although you can buy aftermarket ones.
Or you can get the ultimate bundle.
Ultimate bundle. Yeah, that probably has prop guards. Sounds like it would.
Yep.
So, I don't know. What do you, you know, one thing I've seen in some of the reviews for these things is that, especially with the anti-gravity one, is that it feels more like it's for like the joy of, you know, the joy of like exploration, you know, just like a cool experience of flying around with this thing and being able to look around in the goggles and like see things. You know, earlier we were talking about, you know, what you can do with it. You kind of mentioned getting some unique shots that you couldn't. And I think when you and I think about this stuff, our first thought is, you know, how can I use this to capture an event? You know, like how can I put this into like a video I'm going to deliver?
Well, it's a camera gear podcast.
Well, but that's kind of what I'm
camera nerds.
Do you think that this is camera gear in that way? Like, is it like a serious filming tool, or is this more for the joy of flight? What do you think about that?
I think that you could have a lot of fun with this, and I mean, people who fly FPV just like flying FPV. They're not recording video. They're just having a good old time. And to me, the upgrade of being able to look around while flying seems like it would be night and day.
Pretty big upgrade.
It'd be huge. So I think it satisfies that in a certain way. But as we said up top, this to me unlocks certain types of shots that were very hard, if not impossible, before. And when I think about drones, I think of, you have your like Mavic style where it's some stationary, or you're flying and maybe you have a telephoto on it to get some parallax, maybe you have a wider shot, but it's this like stable camera on a gimbal in the sky. And then you have like your FPV style camera that is more, you know, in the direction it is a moving shot.
Yeah. And potentially more like in the action, depending on where you're filming.
And this seems to be a third kind of shot, or maybe a build upon what FPV is. And just like if you're doing a shoot with like cameras, you know, you might have your tripod camera, but you might have a different camera for your gimbal actiony stuff. And that's different than the thing that you would use for a crash cam, or like a GoPro or an action cam, where you need something that's smaller or a fit. And there's just different cameras for different purposes. And I think that just as much as this is an innovation for people who just enjoy flying, it is just as much an innovation for video capture in the air.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think that it's tempting to look at some of this and say like, well, this could be your only drone. Like this just, you know, you can film in any direction. Like it just replaces something like a Mavic. I don't think it does. I think there's still absolutely a place for like a regular camera drone that's getting really stable footage with a good sensor, you know, pointed in one direction. Yeah,
if I was doing enough air footage, I would think that I would still want something like a Mavic 3, Mavic 3 Pro, something like that. And then I think I would take this over a standard Avata. I don't know if having the better like looking forward footage is worth it over the flexibility of the 360 footage for this type of stuff that you're going to shoot in FPV.
I kind of agree. It feels like it's already a specialized tool. And so it's like, just give me all the capability at that point.
Right. If I'm looking for high quality image quality, like high quality image off a drone, it's going to be a Mavic or a Mavic Pro Mini, something like that, which is just different than. And the thing with the Avata is like you buy the RC2 controller, get the goggles, and go buy a like a Mini 4 Pro without the controller.
Yeah.
And it's an extra $300, $400, $500 on top of this, and you're still coming out for less than the anti-gravity.
Yeah. And then you get more flexibility.
Yep. Sense. And you can use that controller with both drones.
What do you think about so you, like with the Avata, you can do the goggles versus the screen controller. Like, which of those feels more appealing to you for this?
I feel like you have to use the goggles.
You think so?
The whole looking around while flying seems clutch.
Yeah. I think that's going to make for a really fun experience. But I also can picture times that I've been filming, say I'm filming at an event with a lot of people around. There are some times when I'd rather not have to put goggles on.
Can you use the screen controller with the goggles? It's like Porque no los dos.
Yeah, maybe you can. I don't know.
Because like if you can, then you just get like the one controller.
Yeah.
And then you can either not use the goggles or use the goggles.
That's true. Yeah. I don't know. You may be able to.
It would be cool if you could. I mean, I don't know. You have the controller to control your Maverick, and then you have your goggles on, and you can like peek down and like fly 2 drones at once. That seems like the FAA would not want you to do that.
Yeah, you probably can't like disconnect your controller from one.
You'd have to have 2 controllers.
Yeah.
That's why they have the one-handed controller, so you can FPV while you set like the RC2 on your leg and use your fingers to control the joysticks with one hand.
I really hope the FAA is not listening right now.
And then you just kind of like peek out from under the goggles, just kind of watch one.
I don't know about that.
Maybe they could do some picture-in-picture in the 360 view, like Vision Pro style, so you can fly your Mavic while you're flying your Avata.
Perfect.
I mean, how are you going to get footage of you flying your Avata if you don't have a Mavic also in the air?
DJI needs to be listening to this because I think we're telling them how to sell more drones. Let me fly 2 at once.
Exactly.
Buy more drones. I think
they double the drone sales because then everyone has 2 drones.
I think the other thing I'm really curious about here is what this means for anti-gravity. Because when I look at these 2 drones, I think they do each offer some unique things. Like I like that the anti-gravity one, you have the option of the longer flight time. I think the goggles are probably a little better implemented. I mean, it's a well-reviewed drone, but I think the price is just so high that if you're looking at both of these, how do you pick it over the Avata, especially when some of the image specs in the Avata are better? So what do you think anti-gravity does about this?
Yeah. Anti-gravity needed DJI's sales in the United States to be held off for a little longer.
Well, but so quick note on that. When this drone was announced, you couldn't initially buy it in the U.S. The U.S. made it available like 4 days later or something. And there was a DJI ban in the U.S. And so there's kind of a question of like, how can they sell it? And it seems like what happened was, so you can't buy this on the DJI website. You can buy it through things like B&H, other Amazon, retailers like that. It sounds like what happened was, I think on like December 23rd of 2025, that ruling happened that the DJI stuff was banned. But this was the last drone that DJI had already gotten FCC approval for before that date. So they got this drone approved by the FCC on like December 19th. And because they slipped it in before that deadline, it can like legally be operated in the US. But it's really an open question for any future DJI products.
Well, then I think that you just have to go to Anti-Gravity's website, scroll down a little bit, and it says right here, believe the hype.
Believe the hype.
And I think that if you're looking for what is Anti-Gravity's thought on this whole situation with DJI and which drones worth your money, you just kind of have to believe the hype.
Believe the hype. I mean, I want them to succeed. I think that the A1 looks really cool. I like the design looks great. It seems like a great drone. They need to figure out how to get the price down. And they might need to figure out a way to compete, differently. Because, I mean, DJI is so good at this stuff. The Avata 360 seems like, on balance, I feel like it's the better drone and it's also half the price. And it just feels like they've got to figure out how to change that equation a little bit. Because right now, like, it's not really, like, the balance isn't really landing in their favor.
DJI has been so far out ahead of other drone companies for so long. and they're just clearly the lead runner in this market. The anti-gravity was announced in September,
maybe sooner
and
than that,
available
but
in January.
Somewhere in that range. Yeah.
Do you think that DJI was developing the Avata 360 before or after they announced the anti-gravity?
That's hard to say.
Because I would 100%, I would believe that DJI could hear the announcement and get to market before them.
Could be. DJI has a 360 camera now too. There's an Osmo 360, which is kind of a competition to like the Insta360 X5, which is their handheld 360 camera. So yeah, it's hard to say. I don't know if DJI was already planning on getting into this or if it was because of that, but it could go either way.
Is DJI able to sell other things in the United States, or is it like just not drones, or is it everything?
Not sure about that.
Because is that why we don't have an Osmo 4?
Good question.
Or Pocket 4, sorry.
Yeah. I don't know. We should look that up. I'm not sure if they can sell those stuff here.
Well, I think this is super, super cool. And being that it's the last DJI drone that you're ever going to be able to buy, I mean,
better enjoy
I
it.
assume that you've already bought one.
I pre-ordered one. I don't actually know when it's shipping. Last rumor I saw was maybe like April 23rd might be when they start shipping worldwide orders. So we'll see. But maybe later this month, maybe next month. I don't know. We'll find out.
Well, I would be curious to hear some follow-up on how you like it.
I'm sure there will be some follow-up on that.
Sweet. Cool.
We did it. We successfully talked about camera gear. Somebody asked me if we were going to run out of topics for this show. They said, you guys have been doing this podcast for 3.5 years. Aren't you going to run out of things to talk about? I don't think it's possible.
There's a lot of camera stuff.
There is.
There's like so much camera stuff.
Endless amounts of camera stuff.
Yep. And the news has been a little light recently, which hasn't been a problem.
Yeah. But NAB's around the corner.
Because the wave is coming. Like in 2 weeks, it's NAB. And that's like topics for days.
Yeah. I think the only thing that will ever end this podcast is getting to that 100th legendary lens.
That's 100% what it's going to be. Once we hit that. Some people I know have been wondering, does Lucas already have all 100 lenses laid out? Like, do I already know what they are? Or am I learning with the rest of you?
I feel like we should just leave that question to the air for people to figure out.
I mean, I'm not going to answer it.
That's it for the show today. Thanks for joining us. And if you liked it, tell a friend so they can check it out too. You can find out more about the show at www.cameragearpodcast.com. And you can find us on Twitter @CameraGearPod. We'll be back with more next week.